You're listening to the EmpowerTech podcast with me, Iyari Cevallos. This series is a collaboration with Women in Technology, spotlighting the remarkable winners of the 2025 WiT Awards. Professor Rowena Barrett is a recognised leader in innovation and entrepreneurship, driving impact through ideas and collaboration. As QUT's Pro Vice-Chancellor, she leads strategic initiatives that foster entrepreneurial thinking and regional engagement. With science, education, commerce and industrial relations credentials from Monash and Melbourne universities, and global insights from MIT's Regional Entrepreneurship Acceleration program, she brings deep expertise in work and employment dynamics in entrepreneurial firms. A respected scholar and practitioner, Professor Barrett is known for her authentic leadership and cross-sector collaboration. She is a Life Fellow of ANZAM and a QAAS Fellow. Under her leadership, QUT was named 2023 Asia Pacific Entrepreneurial University of the Year and 2025 Global Entrepreneurial Leadership Team of the Year by ACEEU. As the winner of the 2025 Women in Technology Raising the Regions Award, her work continues to inspire innovation and drive transformation through education, research, and enterprise. Rowena, so great to have you here today. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much, Iyari. Looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. So let's get straight into it. Can you tell us what drives your passion for the work you do?
That's a really interesting question because the work I do is really varied. What drives my passion, though, is helping people build the futures that they want to see.
Wow, that is big.
Yes.
How did you end up in this sort of work?
Well, because I work in universities and have done for most of my career, you get to see a lot of young people who are starting on that journey into the next thing. And so a lot of the work that I do is with students, unlocking their ideas, helping them think about how they can create impact and make change in the world. And then doing that beyond the university boundaries with industry, with government, with community, and helping them decide what's important for them and how they might go about achieving that result.
Wow, you must get a great sense of meaning out of the work that you do.
Absolutely. I love seeing people decide and make steps forward.
Yeah, fantastic.
See what they can do.
You must see some pretty amazing things.
Yeah, well, you think about our students and some of the entrepreneurial ideas that they have. We have one young woman with us who's now just in third year. She was interested in environmental education. She worked in out-of-school hours childcare and realised that the activities that the kids did, none of them had an environmental angle to it. So she came up with an idea about educating kids with the environment. She has built a venture out of that. She employs a couple of people.
Wow.
She has learning materials. She's got packs she can mail out with the learning materials to places outside where she can get to. She's building an extraordinary venture by just saying, what can I do? And our job is to wrap around her and say, well, how can we help?
Okay. Wow, that's amazing to be able to take a small observation or something that you're passionate about that you see where there's a gap and then being supported to take it further.
Yeah, and that's what innovation is all about. It's how do I make connections between different things, ask questions about why it happens, and if the answer is in 1852 we started it like this, then you know you've got an in to find a different way. And then finding the resources all around you to put pieces together and say, well, I know this, I know someone else who has that, we can find the other. Look what we can create.
Brilliant. Such an important role that you're playing. Why? So you mentioned that you've been in kind of university pretty much all your career.
Except for a stint as a school teacher.
Okay. Well, thank you for being a teacher for the small stint. How did you make decisions about the career that you've had?
I think it's a series of open doors, of walking through open doors. So I started as a school teacher and was involved in industrial relations back in the heady days of the 1990s. I'm showing my age here, in Victoria. And when I decided school teaching was not for me, it's like, well, what do I know? And it's like, well, actually, I know nothing about industrial relations, even though I'm practicing it. So why don't I go and find out? And so I enrolled in a degree at Melbourne University, a master's program in industrial relations, and then you just follow the trails. Mm-hmm. So when we were studying industrial relations, we had a lot about Japanese car plants and American auto manufacturers, but we had one person who came and spoke to us about small business and industrial relations in small business, and it's like, that totally unheard of. No one ever talks about small business. And then you realise, well, actually Australia is a small business economy. 93% of all firms in Australia have got less than 20 people in them. Mm-hmm. Over 80% of them have got less than 4 people. So what happens in an American car plant is somewhat different to what happens in a firm in Australia. Mm-hmm. And so my research then started to open up, well, what actually does happen? How is work organised? How are people managed in small firms? And over time, that takes me to new firms. You know, if you're in a new firm, how is work organised? How are people managed? Mm-hmm. They're quite notorious for not having very formalised practices.
Of course.
So what happens? What's the role of the owner-manager in all of this? So it takes you to industrial relations, for me to HRM, to building a career around that. And then I get my turn to manage, which, you know, has taken a bit of learning about how to manage others, even though I might understand the theory, but the practice can be slightly different.
Yes, of course.
And then here at QUT, we taught entrepreneurship, and the students came to me and said, you know, back in about 2015, there's all this stuff going on in the world, Rowena. We're seeing the emergence of an entrepreneurial ecosystem in Brisbane, but where is it at QUT? And it's like, that's a good question. Where is it at QUT? And so we looked at what happened, saw what happened in other universities, and came back and said, I think we can build something.
Yeah.
And we did.
Okay.
And here we are.
Wow. Was it difficult for you to make decisions about what you wanted to keep doing, or was it just something that you were interested in as you were doing the industrial relations work?
It's interesting. I tell that story like that, and it sounds like it's this very logical flow of things. Smooth. Yeah, I know, but hindsight is an amazing thing. And it's like, I can see now why you made that connection, but you don't see that
at the time
going forward. So. But I suppose what it does is build on your knowledge and your experiences, and then the people you know and the conversations you have. Mm-hmm. And so all these things start to layer, and you get to the place where you are.
Yeah.
The challenge is to keep going or help others find that path as well.
And when you started, what is the unit that you started when you brought that sort of innovation thinking into the university?
Well, we built a co-working space at QUT called the Foundry, and then later it became formalised as part of the structure. I have a team who run QUT Entrepreneurship. My job is to look after the entrepreneurial priority for the university, and also about our engagement and innovation with regional Queensland.
Okay. So that sounds like quite a lot now.
It is. It's great fun.
Sounds very exciting. What sorts of challenges have you faced in terms of the work that you do?
I suppose one of the challenges that you have is a few obvious ones. When you're a young woman, people think you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. And it's like, just watch me. Just watch me. I had someone say to me one time, you don't have enough grey hair to be able to do this. And it's like,
wow.
You want to bet? I certainly got some. And I suppose the other is, how are you, being resourceful? It's like, okay, I want to do this, but what do I have? What can I use? Because, money is only one resource. what else have I got and how can I leverage that to help me find the paths that I need?
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you give us an example of some of the resources you pulled on?
Yeah, so if we think about, the students asking me about entrepreneurship, we'd had an approach from MIT in the US, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the most entrepreneurial university in the world. And I thought, what do they do? How did they get to that position? I knew probably one person there that I might have had a conversation with. So I went to MIT. It's like, what do you do? Help me understand what you do. MIT is just up the street from Harvard, so I went to Harvard. What do you do? How do you do it? And then come back and put it together and say, well, this is what the best in the world do.
Yes.
So that draws on my research skills. This is what we could do, knowing the situation where we were.
Yes.
Yeah.
So nobody asked you to do that, right?
No one asked me to do it.
No.
No.
And you used, I guess, a loose connection that you had, and you were able to go and talk to them. Now, we should talk about the fact that most people, when you ask for help, want to help.
Absolutely, they do.
And I'm assuming that places like MIT and Harvard are quite happy to toot their own horns and tell us all about how great they're doing. So when you thought of this idea, did you at any point in time get nervous about what you were about to do? Because again, you made that sound really smooth, Rowena.
Oh yeah, of course. Yes. But you have to just grit your teeth and it's like, there's something bigger here, possibly, or what's the worst they can do? They can say no, or they can just ignore you. It's like, okay, well, that route's closed. What else can we find?
Okay.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of like,
putting on a brave face.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And in terms of surprises, what are some of the surprises been that you can share that you've had on your journey?
Oh, well, I suppose I think this is really out there, radical, never been done. Someone said, yeah, that's a great idea. Off you go. It's like, it probably shouldn't be a surprise, but it's how much support people will give. People are willing to change. They might need a solid argument to make change, as you probably well know in the work that you do.
Yes.
But people are willing to help and support. And so, I say, can I come and visit you and see what you do? And say, sure, turn up. Okay, I'll do that.
And is that something you encourage some of your students to do as well?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
What does that look like? Can you give us an example of some recent places or things that where there's, the student has had an idea potentially and you've had to go out to places you haven't typically asked for support in?
Yeah, or us helping to open doors for students. So at QT Entrepreneurship, we run an Inside Innovation program. And every 6 weeks or so, we take a group of students and go and visit an innovative firm. And it's always surprising that the leaders of these organisations are ready to down tools and talk to a small group of students and, all they know is they're from QT. And helping them think through, well, what might their career look like?
Okay.
Yeah, which didn't really answer your question.
No, it did. It did in terms of opening doors for students. And, have you seen what sort of impact that has on the students?
Yeah, I'll think about it in the reverse. We have the Budding Entrepreneur Scholarship Program at QUT, and it recognises entrepreneurial action in a very broad sense, which is how we operate at QUT. It recognises entrepreneurial action of students at high school, and so we don't care what discipline they're in. It doesn't have to be a business. They just have to be entrepreneurial in some shape or form, and we offer them a scholarship. Every year we have a welcome event for the scholars. There's, 4, 5, 6 who start each year. And even if they're not in their first year, we ask the students to come back, but we ask them, bring their parents, bring their family with them. So one of our students this year, he would be maybe 4th year, could even be into his 5th year. His parents came along and his mum was telling me very excitedly about the business that she was launching because she had come to one of our programs a year or so ago and the timing was now right for her to launch her entrepreneurial enterprise.
Wow.
Which was a fantastic one. You know, when you buy an outfit, you know, tops and pants, that's fine if you're the same size, top and bottom. Not everyone is. So she launched her venture, which was for multi-sizes and particularly for big-breasted women. She did ask her son about how should I be doing this? And when he was like, I'm not the person to talk to. It's like, go and do your primary market research with people who want that problem solved. So, you know, there's some of the surprising things. You never know where the seed you place might turn up. And my job's not to say, well, that seed is going to be a pink gerbera. You might want to be a yellow paper daisy. So, yeah.
That is a beautiful surprise to have not just an impact on the students but far beyond the students themselves. That's lovely. And I have been thinking as you've been talking about, we do have a lot of listeners that love tech and science. Have you seen a lot of that sort of work coming through the area that you support?
Yeah, certainly the ubiquity of the internet, mobile devices means that people can start really quickly on ideas. So we see a lot of students who are buying and selling, who are building. We have one young man in our scholar program who has been, you know, engaged in e-commerce for many years.
Wow.
Before he got to us at university. Yes. He has built a big Discord channel. There's probably, you know, there's certainly more than 10,000 people in his channel, and he talks to them about e-commerce. So using the different resources that are available to people. But, yeah, you've got people building businesses in an instant, pretty much, using AI. But then all sorts of other technologies. There's a lot of work at QUT that goes on around waste and waste valorisation. So how do you use waste in whatever form it might be, whether it's agricultural waste or fabric waste or wasted assets? What do you do to give them another life? Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like there's quite a lot that technology has influenced in terms of speed to either proof an idea or go to market. Yeah. How long does a student usually live in your program for?
Well, it's a voluntary program. They come and go as they see fit. You know, students have very complex lives. They're mostly full-time students, mostly full-time workers, mostly full-time humans. And, you know, families and relationships and fun and, you know, so they come and go as they need to. And that's, you know, that's part of what we do as an institution and what our role is in society is to give people agency to be able to say, I need help now. Okay, I'm fine for the moment. I'll come back when I need some other help.
Okay. Do they typically come with the usual asks? Is there a pattern to what they need?
Well,
to give us an example of what a student might come to your unit for.
We can take it beyond students. In the entrepreneurial world, having gone to many, many events around Queensland and internationally, one of the first things people will do when they pitch you is say, I've got an idea, I need money. Okay, stand back. There's more than just having an idea. We need to know whether the idea has any value. Who has the problem that you're trying to solve? Are you actually solving a problem or are you just coming up with another car parking app? What is it that you are trying to create? The money, there are plenty of ways you can get a business funded. One of them is to sell something, have some revenue.
Okay.
So there often is that, entrepreneurship, I'm going to make lots of money. It's like entrepreneurship is about solving problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what would you say makes the most successful entrepreneurs in your program? What have you seen that is typically kind of, yes, you're going to make it, whether it be specific to an idea or a personality potentially?
Yeah. I think it's having purpose, realising that it's a hard and long road. So, the entrepreneurial overnight successes we see, there'll be at least 10 years behind that.
Mm-hmm.
People have worked on those, well, they're well beyond ideas at that point. If they're medical, then you're probably on a 20-year path before you're an overnight success because of the clinical trials and other testing that has to exist.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually working hard on it. They've built resilience. They have some inner fortitude.
Mm-hmm.
They treat it a little bit like a athletic performance.
Okay.
You've got to train. I don't get up and say, I'm going to run the London Marathon tomorrow. It's like,
What?
that would not be pretty. But neither is it if I'm going to launch the business tomorrow without thinking it through.
What are they training on?
What are they training on?
Yes.
Well, they're training on resilience.
Yes.
Persistence.
Yes.
Spending time with customers and others to refine their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I have this problem doesn't mean anyone else has it. So who has the problem?
Mm-hmm.
How do they experience that problem? What potential solution? There are multiple solutions to single problems.
Yes.
So why is that solution that you've decided upon the right one? And then we've got to think about all the business logistics.
Well, better than whatever else is on the market,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There are patents. If you trawl through the patent database, there are patents galore for mousetraps. All sorts of things. But why do we continue to buy the little wooden one with a horrible thing? So there are many ways that you can solve a problem.
Okay.
Why is this problem? And then if it's going to be a business, how can you make it work? Is the time right? What other resources do you need?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I can see the multi-layers to the support that you provide. That time frame that you gives a real kind of realism to how long it takes to actually get something off the ground to a point where you can call it's successful.
Yeah.
Because I imagine that if you're what they call bootstrapping, that might take some time because you don't want to release ownership to anyone else. If you're looking for funding, you may have other people that are interested in how you do it and when you do it, and so that's negotiating those things can take time. So I can see how that 10 years can play out. And you mentioned there anything medical needing further research. And other, I'm assuming regulatory things.
Yeah, clinical
clicked
trials,
off.
regulatory tests, all sorts of other things. You don't want to create a medicine and it not work.
Yes, and I'm assuming it's quite rigorous here in Australia.
Yes.
Okay. Now, so I'm going to take a different tack, Rowena. If there was a young girl or boy thinking about making a difference in terms of the job that you do to help others, what advice would you share with those aspiring to follow in a path similar to yours?
Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, really, underneath it all, I work in academia. And then I do a lot of other things outside academia. But if you want to be an academic, then you need to be on a research pathway. You need to think about the way in which your research can contribute to community and others. So you'll have to do an undergraduate degree, you'll have to do a postgraduate degree, you'll need a PhD, you'll probably need to be writing publications. You need to be excellent in your area to work in academia.
Okay.
But there are plenty of other ways of doing these things. What I would say for young people thinking about their career is what turns you on? And it's not I love something so much I'm going to make it my job. There's elements of that, but just because I like making rugs, which I love making rugs, I make lots of rugs. I'm hopeless at business. So I am a member of an arts and crafts collective. We have a social enterprise. We run a shop. There you go. I put them in there. My rugs sell. I don't run a website. I don't have a Shopify. I don't do any of those things. So,
and neither are you interested in doing that, right?
No. No. I'm interested in the community through our social enterprise and the community where that social enterprise sits. I don't want to be,
on the laptop doing the marketing.
No, I love making rugs.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. So what is it that you're passionate about? How can you use the skills in different ways? Because, again, like there are many, many solutions to problems. There are many ways skills can be applied. And the other couple of things are just to be curious. Ask all those questions. What's the worst they say? Nothing. No. Ignore you. That's okay. There are plenty of other people you can ask the same questions to. So ask the questions, be curious, think about the connections you can make between things. So it might be these two items obviously go together, but what if we flip them? Where else might they apply? On one of my slides, when I talk about this with young kids, you think about things like cat cafes. And one of our students set up a cat cafe here in Brisbane. I love cats. I love coffee. Oh, cat cafe. Parents love them because they often end up with coffee and a cat. Another venture idea, there's one, I think it's in Malaysia, it's a pram washing service at a shopping centre. Anyone who's ever had young kids knows that they're full of cracks and crevices and
the prams,
sticky, gooey bits, and they're so hard to clean.
Yes.
Yeah, why not? We have car washing services, we have house washing services. Why not a pram washing service in a place where prams will be, in a shopping centre? You're bringing together different ideas and then thinking about, well, how do I create value for others? The value I might create could be working in an organisation, it could be starting a venture, it could be participating in a project. What are the skills I have? How might I be able to apply them?
So you're really pointing out here or highlighting that there isn't kind of just one path.
No.
There's lots of ways of moving forward in terms of a career. And the key here is to understand what you're interested in and how you might apply that, whether that be on a project, on a business, working somewhere, studying something. And they can all be shaped in different ways as you move along that path, whatever path you create.
That's right. So if we go back to our third-year student with her environmental education delivered to little kids, she's studying a degree in journalism and science. Okay?
Yes.
So, sure, immediately science communicator. That's a pretty straightforward outcome from a degree like that. But she's applying it in a slightly different way.
In a really different way that I'm sure she didn't imagine applying when she started.
No.
So I think that is a real key message here for younger people. Unless you're really clear about, I want to be a doctor or I want to be a lawyer, potentially an architect's the other long one.
Yeah. But even those paths, it's like there are many ways to practice. Sure, I want to be a doctor. I want to be this sort of a doctor. I want to be this sort of a doctor in that sort of place. That means that I need to connect up a few different parts. I want to be an architect. Okay. Do you want to be an architect in Brisbane or Western Queensland, where we heard a story from colleagues out in Western Queensland where their tiny house was put out on the property. An electrician wasn't able to connect it up to the
grid
power enough. Well, they mightn't have even had a grid. And unfortunately, it sat in the sun for a couple of months, 53 degrees inside the house, and the glue melted in the tiny house. So the floors all parted and everything like that. So we have to think, okay, so I want to be an architect and I'm going to build the classic Queenslander, or I want to be an architect and think about how do I house people in regional Queensland in extreme environments. Different pathways, different connections you need to make in order to get there.
Yes, and I like the doctor example that you gave as well, thinking about the Royal Flying Doctors versus someone in a general practice down the road. Very different types of applications to that profession.
And that's right. And thinking about, well, what would be the rewards of being in regional Queensland, regional Australia? I mean, they're huge in terms of relationships you can build, but the array of practices that you might be engaged in. If you're here in, perhaps a big hospital here, you're probably going to be
might be more specialised
in your lane rather than emergency doctor out in, Mount Isa, where you get to see quite a lot of difference.
And it's the same thing with organisations, right? If you work for a really big organisation, you tend to be in a specialist type of role, whereas smaller organisations, you tend to have a broader array of responsibilities. Yeah.
And so part of what we like to do and encourage at QUT and in QUT Entrepreneurship with our budding entrepreneur scholars, so there's 27 of them, I think, at the moment, they possibly would never have met one another because they'd all have been in different degrees. So they're all in together. They all get on, really well. They work together nicely. The thing about being at a university is you are surrounded by all that difference. You could be in your degree and stay. Well, you won't stay with a cohort in your undergraduate degree, but you might see similar faces. But entrepreneurship opens you up to others. We have curriculum at QUT that does that as well. But, the more you embrace that diversity, the more wide your thinking becomes, the more possibilities can be created as you make connections and say, Iyari does that and other person does this, and oh my goodness, what if we did this thing together?
Yeah, together. Yeah, I can see how that might happen in a room full of very diverse kind of learning and thinking as well. I want to close up with your top tips for our listeners. Usually this is what we do here. What would be your top tips for our listeners to empower themselves in this space, whether it be following an academic journey or in the entrepreneurial space itself?
My top tips would be to be curious. Don't accept that the way things are necessarily the way things should be or that they're set in concrete. Be curious about how things work, why they're like they are, and ask those questions. What if? How about? Sure, you might get an answer that says, no, it is. It's like this for now because of these. Fine. That's all good. But be curious. Think about the connections that you can create between parts. People do this in their friend network. They're not all the same. Different friends, bring different pieces.
Yes, we need variety.
Yeah, that's right. So how do you connect some of the dots? Because many really interesting things happen at the intersection between slightly odd pieces. So be curious, make connections, and then think about the value that you can create. We aren't just powerless individuals. We have agency and we can exercise it. It might be incredibly local or it could be incredibly global. So what can you do given what you know, what you can do with your hands, what you think,
what you're interested in?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in, Rowena. It was a fascinating conversation on entrepreneurship. I'm sure you've sparked some curiosity.
Let's hope so.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening today. Do keep in mind that this is a podcast for informational purposes, and all we're really doing is sharing our opinions on things that matter to us. With that being said, if you liked what you heard and want to continue supporting us, share this podcast with your network to help us grow and bring on even more guests. Until next time, this is Iyari from EmpowerTech, signing off.